for Marin and Faker to make those 1v1 outplays, whereas KOO, it's much more about Gorilla roaming on the map, making plays together with Wisdom. And Gorilla, that's why he has such a high kill participation. He's number 4 this season and number 2 overall in assists. So let's take a look at these bans. Rumble coming in right away for Smeb against Marin.
We're still on patch 5.12, so Kalista definitely still at full power, at least relative to the nerfs that she'll see on 5.13. The bans come through, so Ezreal's been banned. It's a flex pick for SKT, so I always like these picks to take away a couple. Of course, you want it in the mid lane, but you default it to the bot lane if you have to, and Gragas actually respect her Wisdom with that ban.
The Mundo. I mean, SKT played it against Spenu, but it wasn't actually very impressive. I wonder what they have in.
So much available.
If you ban Mundo, you have to believe that there is going to be some sort of heavy AP priority from the KOO Tigers. That's usually what you would use to counter a Mundo pick. Corki first. We talked about how contested a pick that is between Bang and Prey. The Victor locked in immediately for Faker, and the Rek'Sai for Bengi.
So speaking of streaks, we'll be talking about them a lot. There's so many different ones to describe. The must-pick Corki or Sivir streak continues for Prey. Prioritizing it in the first round, we speculated that maybe it was time to bring back the Kog'Maw. Remember, the KOO Tigers are the grandfather of the Juggernaut comp that saw so much play last season, but still such high priority on the Corki. It's been a big pick, but I don't know if it really justifies first pick status over a champion like Victor, which has now been locked in by Faker.
Well, you talked about it, though. If you pick the Victor now, Faker gets a counter pick, and he has that tendency to play the Fizz
yep,
in solo queue. But the Fizz can still come out here. I guess Smeb is confident against facing that champion, Janna and Maokai. So they're taking, basically, they took the and one comp away from SKT. These are the champions that they've been relying on to get their wins so far this year, really. And they took all of those champions away from SK Telecom. Of course, Gorilla, no slouch on Janna. Gorilla responsible for bringing Janna back into the meta. And Smeb, of course, a very good Maokai player in his own right. But SKT, what KOO is doing, they're feeling him out in this first game. Where are your champion pools going? How deep are they? And SKT going to respond as expected with a Fizz, but the Kog'Maw a little bit different.
It's a good laning matchup against the Cork. You can just sit back and free auto attack. Once you get a couple of points in your W, you're able to trade very, very well. And levels 1 to 3, not ideal, but it gets better and better for the Kog'Maw. The surprise to me is that, okay, we talked about the importance of Gorilla's roaming, and you can roam on Janna. Of course, she's very innately speedy, but doesn't quite have the CC or high damage presence of champions like Braum and Karma that he's really been favoring in recent weeks.
Yeah, and the Evelynn could come in, as could the Cassiopeia, something that we haven't really seen a lot of teams play recently. And Bengi will have that advantage with the Cassiopeia over the Evelynn. I'm a little bit surprised that we didn't see Echo here. But Cassiopeia will be apparently Kuro's answer, a champion that not that many players have been playing except for GBM, honestly, and so Jin Air.
The question about answers really comes on this draft is it feels like SKT, they've got the winning matchups. They have the Fizz versus Maokai that we've seen consistently goes in the advantage of the Fizz. In the mid lane, you won't really feel like Cassiopeia is a hard counter to Victor. It can have a good laning phase there, but Evelynn is always well answered by Rek'Sai and the Tremor Sense that comes through. So they were definitely always going to be trading priority picks, but it feels like SKT kind of have the ones that answer what KOO's been able to assemble on the blue side.
Yeah, and you have to believe that KOO really needs a lane swap here in order to handle this situation as well as possible, just because you really don't want Marin against that Maokai, and like you said, the Kog'Maw against the Corki in the laning phase, so they have to have some other answer, and we'll see if they can pull it off. Of course, Wisdom has some very strong engage with the Maokai and the Evelynn. We've seen how good Wisdom is at pulling off these Evelynn flanks. But when it comes to a 5v5 fight in the late game, you have to hand the edge to the KOO Tigers. They've got sufficient peel for Corki and the Cassiopeia and SKT. I mean, that Fizz just isn't that good in team fights when you compare it to a Maokai.
But are you telling me, Monte Cristo, that KOO had the advantage in late game team fights and SKT had the laning and skirmish advantage? This is both teams playing into their exact advantages, and that's what excites me is that, okay, team fight's not that great for SKT, but how do you deal with the Fizz as Maokai, both in terms of the 1v1 matchup, which will come when teleports become important, or just in terms of rotating around in the early game?
Yeah, and even then, too, Evelynn not giving the strongest kill pressure onto the Fizz either. That's why the The Echo, I think, would have been perhaps a stronger option here.
Nidalee would have been not necessarily a Wisdom champion, but a possibility as well. Surprising to see.
All right, guys. KOO Tigers versus SK Telecom, Game 1. Let's get in it. All right. Well, somebody's game streak is going to end here. Somebody's best of 3 win streak will end later on in this broadcast as KOO starts with a pretty standard fan here. SKT not going to be taking any risks either.
Will SKT make it to 21-0? That's the WrestleMania number I was thinking of before, Monte Cristo. That's what The Undertaker got to. Of course, that was one match a year, so maybe not quite as equal a trade as we see. Bengi, Maren, Faker. Happy family is SK Telecom T1, and when you win all the games, how can you not be happy?
Yeah, they are certainly something else right now. KOO has a lot of work to do if they want to take out SKT. Prey actually taking some pretty severe harass damage early, but we see that Pulverize actually taken first by Wolf. A little bit safer with a Kog'Maw on the lane because you're not going to have that sustain early because you will win the poke trades.
But traditionally we see the Triumphant Roar, the heal at level 1, just because, of course, you want to start pushing the lane, give yourself the potential to pick up level 2, because it does the AoE damage to the minions. You just get the Relic Shield proc and able to push lane a bit better. So you're a bit more pigeonholed, but, of course, excellent for the invade, which SKT certainly considering their options to at least clear out these saplings.
So when he took the Pulverize and got the chunk out of Corki, Corki had to recall, which means it was safe to go clear the saplings at the Raptors. So nice play there from SKT, immediately jumping on that opportunity. But the lane swap will come in for the KOO Tigers. They're going to get the lane swap, which is what they wanted the situation. Corki not too late to freeze. And Janna heading over to the red buff right now, getting a ward down, just making sure they have an idea of what's going on. Meanwhile, ward was down for SKT at the enemy red, so they will know that Evelynn is starting red and then heading up into the top side. Kuro taking the bad end of some death rate trades early.
Interesting to see that KOO was starting on their weaker side, which definitely has been the standard that we've seen so far in Champions, but SKT starting on the stronger side. They were starting on the side where their AD carry already was. Of course, they're the teams that got lane swapped on, so it's not the biggest surprise, but it will affect the pathing when it comes to multiple members potentially in the top side.
Yeah, and Maren already up in top, actually, after hitting level 2. So taking that early teleport. Smeb just continuing the jungle follow for the moment, but bold. Wolf makes an early swap himself, while Gorilla and Prey just staying in that lane. Now, normally you want Corki in the 1v1 here, and you'd send the support somewhere else to help deal with this, but we're not going to see it. We'll have to see if Smeb took the blue buff or not. That's going to be the question. As to whether he can easily break this freeze or how much trouble he's going to have against the Kog'Maw. I'm sure we'll see what's going on down there in a second.
In terms of matchups, actually, you know, these weird 1v1 matchups where we get a top laner versus an AD carry, he's found by Wisdom, takes a bit of damage. How much does Kuro want to chase? Doesn't matter, he's able to get away. But coming down to bottom lane, the unique thing about this matchup is that Kog'Maw only really uses the Bioarcane Barrage in trades. He doesn't really spam spells like other champions, so he's going to be able to get harass onto Maokai and not necessarily use enough spells to prop the Sap Magic passive. So it's actually, when we're talking about these weird off-lane 1v1s, a really good one for Kog'Maw.
Yeah, especially because it's a 1v1. Corki has that escape mechanism in the top side, so leaving him alone is significantly less dangerous than leaving the Kog'Maw alone there. So if Janna's going to go down to the bottom side, could see some action from the Twisted Advance, but Gorilla's sticking around top for now still. And Maren managing to pick up a decent amount of CS so far. We can see the win rates. Gorilla with that 81% win rate on Janna, and a lot of assists, of course, for Gorilla. He is second in the league behind Madlife, and Wolf number 4 for supports.
So SKT are really not playing around lane this game, and why I say that is there's one defensive ward down, as we see actually Maren going in aggressively onto Prey, but just for a trade. There's one ward down, it's just a green ward. Remember, against Evelynn and with a targeted CC and Maokai, this Kog'Maw cannot really push up the lane. You mentioned doesn't have an escape like Corki if he was in a similar position. I'd expect Ku to play around bottom side, or SKT will have to swap back the moment the Wolf's free to put down a bit more defensive vision for the Kog'Maw.
Well, it's kind of what we expect, though, right? Prey is really responsible for a lot of the kills on the Ku Tigers, and they play around him as a more 80 carry focused team, and so we see them with the support in that lane, but the support going up to the top side to help out with Marin because he needs to get CS now. He has to be able to get that Trinity Force to really threaten the Maokai. There's a specific power spike where you need to get those kills because if things go even, Maokai is vastly more useful in the late game in those team fights that will erupt around Dragon and Baron. So I think this is a wise call from SKT. Make sure the Fizz at least gets rolling a little bit.
I guess the way to encapsulate that might be that Maokai is definitely more level reliant and Fizz is more item reliant. So if this gets Fizz the items, they're going to be okay. It's a fairly even trade overall, but you're also getting Kog'Maw the free levels to get to that really safe level 9 phase where Byakugan Barrage really maxes out in range.
All right, both junglers in the top right now. Bengi coming through for a lane gank. They do not see him with the ward. It expires before he can walk into the next brush. Evelynn still here. There's the Zephyr for the slow onto Wolf. No one really committing to this yet. Remember that the teleport can be used by Smeb. No, it can't be. It's down. So this is pretty safe for SKT. There's the ward. They're going to not see Wisdom yet. There's the pull. They don't know that Evelynn's here. Here comes Wisdom. There's a tornado going back, knocking several people up. Gorilla very low. That's first blood for Fizz. And that is not good for the Ku Tigers, giving Fizz that advantage. Wisdom still chasing. He's going to try and take down Marin. He gets it. Can they turn it around? Prey gets knocked up by the pulverize. Bengi low, but so are Ku. Wisdom barely lives through a Prey Seeker. And actually hit Prey. It's not living up to its ability name. It's a Wisdom Seeker.
A Wisdom Seeker. Yeah, surprisingly even trade. I thought SKT would have the advantage. They had the hard CC. They had the knock-up. Teleport comes in, so in terms of rotations, in terms of picking up both experience and farm, SKT pick a lot up with that teleport.
Yeah, they do, but we do see the Smeb recall. He is not going to have to TP in that top lane, so we could see Smeb try and make a play to get Prey further ahead. Kuro, of course, with the tier first, building into an Abyssal Scepter against Faker's Victor, and ooh, that's a nice delay onto Bang. Gonna get Corki some pressure in the laning phase, and Smeb doesn't have to use that TP, so very interesting map control that Ku could assert soon if they try and make a play with that.
So you can tell that SKT were engineering or expecting to have Marin in a 2v2 because he actually picked up the Doran. He started Doran Blade, not any sort of regen start like a Flask. He might actually have trade problems with Smeb in these very early levels before he's able to pick up big items. Okay, with the Shin, he has good burst, but a lot of consistent damage coming out of a Maokai.
Uh-oh, Gorilla gets caught, chilling Smite down, and he's going to get knocked around. That tornado misses, but Wisdom is there with the ultimate. Here's the TP coming in. They want to make a play here. Heal goes down onto Bengi, but the Twisted Advance. Prey also moving up. A kill for Prey. They're going to get the blue buff too, for sure now. And that is the play they were looking to make. Good hold on the teleport by Smeb to make that situation happen. But Marin now coming through. They may want to keep fighting this, but Wisdom just groups his 5 and heads back out. So interesting play. Looks like Smeb not going to lose too much CS in the top lane. They will punish Kuro a little bit for this, but a nice kill from Smeb.
And the power of teleports. Of course, the teleport got Marin back up to top, so he picked up an extra wave, but it crucially got Ku a pick, having that teleport advantage that wasn't up for that skirmish in top. So Ku definitely just kind of getting ahead in this early game phase. 500 gold ahead. That's big when we're talking about a game against SK Telecom T1.
Right, and if you're SKT, you can't assume that Gorilla's there alone because they use so much of that crowd control to do nothing, and Wisdom was there to back him up. These are very good teams. They're unlikely to get caught out warding for the most part. You should assume that the jungler is going to be there, especially when it's an Evelynn that you can't see.
Pink ward not spotted by Ku when they were rotating to blue, so that means pretty precise time are going to be available for SK Telecom around the 14-10 minute mark.
But Smeb gets a blue buff. I mean, this is very important for how this is going to play out. He's going to be able to trade more efficiently. He already has the sustain.
And we just mentioned, Marin doesn't have sustain. He's gone for the burst trades. So you feel like with this blue buff, just in disregard mana cost, might actually be able to get a slight advantage on top.
They're trying to bait the all-in right now. Marin not falling for it. Bengi is here, but the fish is already down. And there's Smeb. Just going to throw it, and they will get out as soon as they have a hint that Wisdom is there. Agony's Embrace wasn't available, but without that fish, and I don't know if they would have had the damage to actually kill the Maokai through his ult.
Ignite also crucially only just came up after all that trading. Speaking of trading in bottom, continues between these two carries. Pretty big CS advantage for Bang just because he's been left in a 1v1 lane for the early game.
Yeah, also he has that range advantage to harass Prey, makes it a lot harder to CS. But the Rocket's up now, so should be getting a little bit better. Prey actually ahead thanks to, looks like a missed Petrifying Gaze there.
Both summoners down as well.
Yeah, very interesting. Had to flash. Not sure what Faker was doing in that situation. We only caught the tail end of it.
Presented without context, that looked very bad.
Yeah. Full HP. It looked like he tried to make a flash play to follow up with Wisdom, and it just didn't work.
So Faker has the Aftershock augment, that E augment for the Death Ray, able to push waves and roam. This has been what we saw actually yesterday. There was a lot of pushing waves and roaming against AB Ezreal. Not quite the same case against Cassiopeia, but SKT, they start off the Dragon.
Well, they saw Prey recalling. Marin's TP is up right now before Smeb, so this is a very good window for them to go ahead and take Dragon number 1. They're going to get it. If Ku had come in, they could have had a 5v3 at any time, so calculated Dragon take from SK Telecom. Prey had to go back, get that Phage. So he's up in items against Bang now. We'll see if he can actually start to close this CS gap a little bit.
This first 11 minutes, any indication of this series, definitely going to be a color card stream. How many times have we said windows and making smart map trades? So far, we've seen both teams push ahead, understand what they have. Usually it's been teleports or recall timings, and make smart adaptations. And the result is we're pretty much all even at 11 minutes into this game.
Yeah, well, I think we're in for a treat of a game, that's for sure. Smeb has actually chipped out the top tower pretty significantly. He's managed to keep a hold of it. Bengi Kuro gets caught too far up. Kuro has nothing. No summoners. Tries to pop the ghost, but it's just not enough to get out. And Bengi with the smart gank move through the Raptor brush. Wolf's still there. They could dive. Wisdom right now. They want to go in again. There's the exhaust flash, and they're knocking it back in straight into the knockup. Beautiful dive from SKT.
The juggling of the turret aggro, full health Bengi, getting the CC and being able to slip and slide away with his E. Beautiful play, and suddenly SKT playing around something they understood. They knew Kuro's flash was still minutes away from being up. And Rek'Sai is one of those junglers. Okay, only a couple of units away from the turret. You think that'd be safe? Not against a Rek'Sai.
Yeah, it's starting to recall right on the pink ward where they know they will not be seen. So Wisdom thinking he could just sit there, but not accounting for the fact that Wolf was on the map ready to make the play and dive underneath that turret. I mean, it was a very safe dive, had the Unbreakable Will even if he needed it, which he did not. So
big worry now. Boots too. At least 20% CDR just from the visible. We're expecting probably CDR per level blues. Once you pick up that Aftershock augment on the E, you can push up wave and roam, and suddenly feels like Kuro is going to be just relegated to farming under his inner turret, and Faker's going to be able to walk around, play basketball with his own ball, and just go around there and pick up CS after CS. We've seen Faker do this against Jin Air. No reason he can't do it again here.
Yeah, he really has that tendency to take over games on Victor, provide pressure onto turrets and just auto-attack them to death. And if you try and get close to him, even 2-3 members of the enemy team are often at a loss for how to remove him from auto-attacking towers because Victor has all that zone, and the burst damage is so insane from that champion. You can't really effectively deal with him. Smeb still holding his own in the top side through all of this.
Cassiopeia just has no real way at this present point in the game to make him accountable. He's going to be able to push waves. Cassio only has mana regen and magic resist. She's going to be under her inner turret, and that opens up Faker to either grow this CS advantage or impact the other lanes. Look at it now. It's 21 CS at 14 minutes. If this game stays with the same texture, at 20 minutes, at 25 minutes, that lead is only going to grow larger.
Yeah, SK Telecom now wandering through the Tri-Brush. Wisdom's going to show himself on the top side. They probably will get a kill onto Marin here, but there could be a big dive coming in through the bottom side. Marin not able to escape. Agony's Embrace will come through, and that's a kill for Smeb. But the price will be this bottom lane turret. It's going to go down from full HP to 0 as Prey and Gorilla are going to be quite nervous about dealing with this. Actually, Smeb recalling right now. He has his TP up, and they're just going to leave Wisdom in the top side to push this turret and get the remaining HP. Great reaction from Ku after killing that top laner.
Able to get a really big purchase as well. Ninja Tabi into Righteous Glory complete. It's obviously a massive back there for Smeb. He didn't have any mana, so he wasn't able to push up the wave enough to really trade turrets. So they just decided smart to go pick up the big buy and be ready with the teleport.
And there's that turret going down. No one going to get the local gold.
Teleport coming in.
And here we go. They're going in again. Bang alone in the bottom side. Smeb coming in. Righteous Glory already popped. Bang is dead. Wolf and Bengi are here, but that's not going to be enough right now. Faker makes his way back down from the mid lane. Prey dies to the Storm. Gravity Field, Gorilla looks like he's going to fall as well. There's no real help here. Kuro, can he get the Petrifying Gaze? No, gets knocked out by a headbutt, and they're just using it to retreat. So a nice move from Ku, but answered immediately by Marin's own TP, and Faker with a very early roam.
It's not over
Smeb
yet.
is dead. That's just it. Wisdom also going to get actually stunned here. Faker zoning him out. Faker near to the turret. He is going to get that kill eventually. Wow, so that got turned around very fast by SKT. Ku miscommunicating. Faker was already on his way down. And Ku didn't have any wards in their own jungle to see that one out. All the deep wards are for SKT.
While the proactive teleport from Smeb looked like it might reap some fruit for Ku, we have to remember what we said multiple times. Faker's the one that's always going to react faster because he's already taken out the outer turret. He has the instant wave clear, and he was tanking up the turret for the turret dive after one of his members had already gone down. So SKT understand they had a massive mobility advantage, and Ku paid the price.
I mean, just his map presence was unreal right there, but that's what happens when you take down that early tier 1 mid, like you're saying, and Bengi can get those deep wards in. It makes it very safe for Faker to get down into the bottom side, and Kuro just not quite there yet. So a large lead developing, 3K gold here at 16 minutes, not insurmountable for Ku, but they're going to have some big problems fighting here in the mid game.
Kuro finally going to pick up this blue. Still, this ward has not been swept up. Maybe Gorilla will finally check it. Nope. Nope. Finally. Oh.
Nope. I guess not.
Forever. The most value in this ward. It's
That
been there
is-
since, what, 4 minutes?
That's some crazy value. You don't expect a pink ward to be there, to be fair, but even so, walking over at Gorilla, looking at a different part of the map.
It's also been swept before. Look at that pink eye just ruminating across the map and providing so much exact timing on things like blue, which is relevant when you come to fight this dragon. You know that that team has just showed multiple members around the blue not 20 seconds ago.
Yeah, and Ku just can't even get any vision onto that objective. They are not going to be able to really do much with it. They are wise, I think, to wait at this point, try and get into that stage of the game where the tankiness of the Evelynn and the Maokai might be able to carry them through against the Fizz, but it's going to be difficult with this kind of deficit already accrued by the Ku Tigers.
So it means you're opting into a late game Maokai versus Fizz mismatch in the off lane when we're waiting for the teleports, and just a late game Kog'Maw. We know the Terror of Kog'Maw, actually the highest win rate champion, or among the highest win rate champions in the league. I believe 9-4 now out of 13 games. One of those AP from Faker, but mostly been 80 carry Kog'Maw that's been showing a lot of winning.
Yeah, it definitely has. So, Prey scared to take his own red buff right now. SKT in complete control of the bottom side. Bang so safe with Wolf and Bengi patrolling the enemy Brambleback right now. Smeb and Wisdom trying to make it through the Tri-Brush. They won't see Wisdom. They will see Smeb.
Applying so much pressure that, okay, it abates the Maokai versus Fizz mismatch. They're just losing objectives for just pressure onto Marin, who, from his smart teleport, is still doing very capably both in CS, 24 CS up, but very close to his Trinity Force and in general gold as well.
Yeah, Smeb doesn't have a lot of resist, and that's one of the issues with dealing with a Fizz, is that you have to have two different resists, magic resist and armor, to really efficiently deal with them. They know Wisdom's there. They don't care. They're still going to invade that side of the map. Maybe finally they'll see the pink ward. Smeb with the glory coming through. There's a twisted advance onto Bengi. Agony's Embrace goes through. They want this kill. Prey is also there. Smeb will pick it up. And that Maokai getting fed is very problematic for SKT. Yes, they have the lead, but that's the player that is going to be the big kind of bear in the late game. Can they get a mid lane turret for it? May help their control, but Faker is there. Faker with that wave clear on his Z. He's got the level advantage.
And the determining factor in the late game might be, can Smeb keep Marin accountable? Can he get enough items to be able to deal with him in the off lane? Because, of course, the targeted engage means that Maokai always going to be super tanky, always going to be relevant in team fights. If Marin can't boss him around the side lanes, maybe that's the window for Ku to really come back in this game.
Very well could be. Well, Wisdom, he's getting some more wards down, doing a bit of counter jungling, now backing off. No, he's not. Gonna go help out in top side alongside Wolf. Kuro here, still just trying to farm up. He's fallen 40 CS behind Faker, never mind the difference. Faker with the Echo. That's a very interesting buy.
He didn't have enough wave clear before, so now he's got even more instant wave clear, and that just means walk up, you know, within what, 400 units of a minion wave, instant clear it, and then you're free to go and rotate anywhere around the map. Game plan from SKT, not going to change in the next 10 minutes. Contest every objective.
Yeah, you have to wonder about this Cassiopeia pick too. It's been one of those champions where the mid lane seems to be falling out of a phase where you can actually use low wave clear champions early, because otherwise the invades get too severe and you open up the enemy mid laner too much. So Faker going to be using this Victor pretty effectively in the top lane now, just keeping all of the lanes pressured. And we've seen Faker do this before, not with an Echo as a second item after a Hex Core upgrade, but just the way that SKT likes to play this very high pressure style where they keep the enemy split up and they slowly, well not really slowly, quickly knock down towers.
And the consistent factor about this Victor that, again, has been by far his most played champion this season hasn't been the item mode. Of course, we thought he was pigeonholing himself into the Lich Bane for turrets, but he always picks for the situation. And given that they're winning this game by contesting specifically red and blue buffs, instant wave clear with that extra 100, 120 damage from the Ludens seems to be the priority, and it seems to be paying off.
Yep, indeed. So, we're back in a very uncomfortable situation, taking some living artilleries rather underneath the mid turret, and even that turret's starting to get a bit chipped out by the damage, and he needs some help from Prey to clear. Ku just needs to hold on right now. They need to push it to a phase where they can actually get a successful 5v5, but the problem with that is SKT has got supremacy over the Dragon Pit right now, and they can just keep on stacking that objective as long as the mid and bottom lane remain pushed. Otherwise, Ku has to make some very uncomfortable decisions about how they're going to actually reach that objective. Faker is pushing out right now, gets about another quarter damage down onto that turret. So it is slowly dying as the stranglehold of SKT continues on the map.
And your question, your remark about questions comes back to Champion Select, where we said that SKT, at least in the laning phase, certainly had all the answers. Finally, Marin gets some free time with Smeb. Bang's actually there as well. Fish misses. And it's a small reprieve from Smeb, but still they're chasing.
Yeah, they want to go for this. They're not really going to get much. Tier 1 tower still there. So a summoner, but they have to commit both Faker and Bang into that top lane. As now Ku still left with only the top side of the map. Ooh, not delayed. That could have been big for Ku. That could have meant potentially a mid lane tower, actually. They had been able to get Prey into that mid lane with the Corki.
Hit the power spike early, but the reward hasn't been there. Not reaping any turrets that usually the Sorcerer's Shoes Trinity Force purchase should open. And it feels like Ku not hitting timings, SKT ahead of timings, and that's really been...
Well, they haven't had a chance really to hit any timings with the amount of pressure. How do you hit a siege timing with Corki when your mid lane turret is gone and you're being dove and killed in the bottom side? It makes it incredibly difficult. SKT is just knows what those timings are and has nipped them in the bud.
Feels like taking that out of turret. You know, we've seen previous series where denying a Varus by stealing blue could be the thing. Using the teleport hero, who they really want this turret. It's falling low, but will we see SKT engage?
Here we go. There's a flank from Wolf. Big knock-up. Gravity Field catches Smeb with some already low on the backside. Kuro tries to get the Petrifying Gaze. Doesn't actually stun anybody, and now Kuro has to run. He's going to fall. Prey Valks out of combat, but that is so far 3 for none. And Ku trying to commit. They needed to dictate the tempo of this game just a little bit. They can't get there. Prey looks like he is going to die in the end as he is found by Bang and Faker. zoned out by Wolf, and that's going to be a Baron.
But of all things, a Wolf flank on Alice is what got them the massive engage with the headbutt pulver. It just wasn't accounted for by wards. Only one pink ward on the map around the mid lane when they were grouping, when they used their teleport, and the cost is massive. The 4 kills, and now the Baron as well.
Well, I actually agree with what Ku was trying to do there. They had to get that mid lane turret down, because if they didn't, the dragon stacking would have been just continued for the end until the end of the game, basically. There was no way for Ku to get control unless that mid lane turret goes down. But Flash, headbutt, pull right into the center of the team.
Triple headbutt pulve, and that's the thing I'm going to say, Monty, is that I agree this is what they needed to do, but you need to prepare. You need to have the wards around your flank. You should never be flanked by, of all things, a support Alistar.
Well, they also didn't expect him to come through the lane from that angle, and they certainly didn't expect him to be able to flash on his entry to hit them while they had just killed the tower. So Wolf outplayed them for sure. Now Prey going to get fished and dead.
And Fizz, Trinity Force Fizz with Baron as well to amplify his sieging. Of course, it's just turret damage really that he's going to get from that. There's no one on this team that can count for it. Even though Smeb done very capably in his build, no way he can show up anywhere near this Fizz, and SKT's got everything they wanted from Champion Select.
Yeah, and it's just so impressive because it's not even that Ku has played this game particularly badly. They just have been overwhelmed by SKT's precision with this composition and their play on the map. There's an inhibitor. They're going to get some damage down onto the bottom inhib turret also, but this is a pretty dominating display from SK Telecom, but Ku has the right ideas. It's just that SKT is better at executing at every single stage, it seems.
And that's kind of the scary thing, Monty, is that all the big high-level decisions from Ku have been the correct ones. It's just small mistakes, specifically fighting around bottom when you can't control Victor. Of course, Victor's been completely out of control this game. The moment they took the outer turret and just using his instant wave clear and roaming meant that he roamed first to bottom. And then the small mistake of understanding, okay, we need to make something happen. We need to take this outer turret. Let's use the teleport for it, but not warding your flanks. These small things have just caused SKT to spiral out of control. Over 8,500 gold is the lead at 26 minutes. And this is first versus second.
Yeah. And you're talking about it, but they could have just had a ward right in the middle of the mid lane, back where their tier 1 could have been, and seen that Wolf coming in, but they just didn't expect him to be there, and they got a little bit desperate. So that shot call was correct, but one ward misplaced means that Wolf finds an angle. And that's going to be probably it for this game, as Ku frantically tries to defend, but they're never going to be in a position now probably where they can outplay SK Telecom without a tremendous error from this T1 team.
Always playing on the razor's edge against SK Telecom. Even if you make those smart rotations, even if you have the right macro decision making, small, minor, at least should be minor decisions, snowballs the game out of control for SKT.
It really is amazing to watch SK Telecom at the moment. We saw their matches against Jin Air too, where that game 2 against Jin Air was just nearly flawless snowballing off of some very minor advantages. Same story here tonight. Ku just can't face the force of the storm, really. Smeb's holding his own. I mean, Smeb made this pick work into the Fizz, honestly. He has at least been able to hold on.
And it feels like Ku in general played around the Fizz very well. They ensured that there was never that kind of comical situation we've seen in previous Mario games where he's just solo killing, solo taking down inhibitors and such. They played around that. It's just the other sides, the other lanes of the map, and in general map control has been completely ceded to SKT everywhere except that 1v1 between Smeb and Mara.
Yeah, just seems like every time Ku try to make a play, SKT has an answer. They've already thought about those eventualities, and they are prepared to come down to that lane to take that fight. And now SK Telecom has that inhibitor down. It's going to take them a few more minutes to close out this game, but they have opened up just a tremendous gold lead from what was once a quite close showdown and a little bit of trading. But Ku Tigers, you know, and we talk about going into these next games. Okay, well, SKT didn't really show us anything besides the Kog'Maw. That's new. Everything else, pretty standard for them. Ku, they tried to take away the Janna, the Corki, and the Maokai to see if that would be effective against SKT, but it's just not enough.
So you get in the coaching box, Munch, because of course you've been a professional coach before. You get in the coaching box. You've watched this game from Ku. What do you tell your charges? Because it doesn't feel like there's any, quick fix. It feels like just small mistakes, the sort of thing that you can't really account for, especially in the heat of the moment, have just unsettled this team.
I think you have to put Kuro on a high wave clear champion to make sure that Faker can't take over the map. And then you start trying to put Prey and Smeb on lane bullies. I think that's the way you come back out of this. You try and get the Kog'Maw for yourself. Here we go. There's a Righteous Glory pop right there. They're going to try and get it on Faker. Smeb in the back line already. Faker getting locked up. Faker actually goes down right there as Bengi finally gets into the fight. Bang under threat. Kuro and Smeb chasing after him. They're the Twin Fangs, but the double kill as Marin is just going to clean up this fight from behind. There is nothing that Ku can do. Marin with the TP into the back line. And he's going to not quite finish off Smeb, it looks like. Smeb may be just a little too much to handle, but that's not going to save Ku's bottom inhibitor.
And this is exactly the engage that might have won Ku a different game, but when you're 8 or 9,000 gold behind and Marin shows up with just an embarrassment of items, CDR even to continue just being so sticky, uses the Ignite because they're going to take down Smeb eventually. 7-16, soon to be 7-17 is the kill score, and Ku have been blown away by SK Telecom.
Yes, they have. They can't finish right now. No AD carry, no mid laner to deal the coup de grace. That is only a matter of time at this stage. Baron up in another minute, Dragon up in a minute 40. Certainly SK Telecom in prime position to take both of them. It was a good engage from Ku. Take down the Victor, see if you can make it work. They got both carries, but Marin, as soon as it breaks into a skirmish after a few members are dead, that's where he powers up on this Fizz, and he is just so strong.
And the scariest thing about 2015 Summer is we're going to see the replay. Watch the Maokai comes in from the perfect flank ward. They kill Faker. Fizz isn't even at this fight yet, but he's so strong the moment that they join it. We were focused more on what was happening in the back line of SKT. The damage from Fizz is disgusting.
Well, also, Prey and Gorilla ended up standing in that Chaos Storm for a bit too long as they were flanked in there. And even after Faker had died, still ending up in that ability. So a little bit of a misplay, I think, from Prey and Gorilla in terms of their positioning.
The small point I want to bring up, Monty, is that, of course, you watched all of the spring season. I was busy with the Chinese League. The one thing I can take away from watching SK Telecom T1 in summer is that when you talk about the team's primary carries, it's always been Faker, whatever version of SKT. T1, Team 2, or K, or whatever the team that Faker was on, it was always about Faker. You'd have to say the second primary carry of this team is Marin.
Absolutely. They give him so much gold relative to most top laners in terms of team percentage, and now he's got a wit's end, and he is playing these carry top laners now like the Fizz. He's starting to step into that role.
And when we were talking about top laners in champions, we were talking about the likes of Duke, the likes of Smeb, the likes of Someday who can play carry champions like Riven. It's not Riven, but Marin makes it work, and he can even build the pure carry out. This is not full tank Fizz. This Fizz does a hell of a lot of damage.
Yes, it does. So they're going to back off after this. Ku has to use Talisman. They're trying to threaten this Baron. We see Wisdom setting up for a flank. And what is SKT going to do? They're going to break apart just a little bit. Bard actually on his own right now. That is a bit dangerous. Pops the fish early. That's one less damage tool that he has. He's got a Frozen Heart, though, so he's quite tanky. Whoa! With a huge knock-up. And that's going to be it straight into the Gravity Field and Chaos Storm. Faker just popping down those abilities. What a beautiful CC chain. Marin just baiting them into grouping up, and Wolf just absolutely delivering with the flash. He has been insane on this Alistar this game.
Back-to-back flashes. The first to win the game, it felt like, after Ku were pushing the mid turret. The second one for the disgusting wombo even prompts a surrender from the Ku Tigers. And SKT, we thought Ku might be their most serious challenge yet, but you wouldn't take it from game one.
It is just, I mean, SKT, the level to which they are playing League of Legends these days is absolutely mind-boggling. Wolf was such a hero in that game. He found the angles he needed to initiate for his team, tie him up, and that's going to be 16-0. SK Telecom T1 breaks their previous win streak in terms of games. They set it here in this league in Champions Winter. In 2013-2014, they have now surpassed it, and they are one game away to racking up their 20th best-of-3 win.
1-0-16, 17